My husband went missing 6 months ago. Just went out to work one day and never came home. It was a horrible shock to the whole neighborhood because things like that just didn't happen in our little slice of white picket fence suburbia. The police launched an investigation, and the neighborhood watch set out search parties. But no one ever found any evidence to indicate what had happened to him. Our families were devastated. Recently, the missing posters have been taken down or papered over. The updates from the police became less frequent and dwindled away. I accepted that, hard as it was to admit. My Rick wasn't coming home. Until he did. A week ago, I was in the back garden watering my petunias when I heard the garden gate creak open. I jerked my head in that direction, and there he was, exactly the same as the day that he disappeared. Same wind-swept blonde hair and bright blue eyes, same curl to his pink lips. I was in shock. Our families had mourned for him, and yet there he was, standing in our garden like he had just popped out for milk or something. When I asked where he had been, he said he didn't know. He couldn't remember anything about the last 6 months. All our family and friends are beside themselves with joy. They almost can't believe it, but that's the thing. I don't believe it. Look, I understand how crazy this all sounds, or I do. Our families would never believe me, and I can't go to the police unless I want to end up in a straitjacket. But I just know that the man sleeping next to me isn't my husband. I don't know what to do. I know I should be happy, but I'm not. I'm terrified. I don't know much about anything of the supernatural or paranormal, and I don't even like watching horror movies. But something about this whole situation just makes my skin crawl. Just let me explain why I'm so sure. Once I've done that, hopefully one of you will believe me, and you'll be able to tell me what to do. The morning after Rick came home, I made him a cup of tea. When I handed it to him, he gave me the brightest smile. Then he took a sugar cube from the dish on the table and dropped it into the cup. Our house was in chaos with his return, and I was still in shock, so I didn't think much of it at the time, but it's been replaying in my head ever since. I know it doesn't sound very significant, but my husband never put sugar in his tea. He was always adamant that it ruined the taste, and he'd get so frustrated if I ever put sugar in his cup by accident. And yet, this man had sugar. Then it was the golf. A few days ago, he was out visiting his mom, and I recorded a golf tournament that was showing on the TV. It was one of Rick's favorite golfers that was competing, and he never missed it. Once he even skipped out on an anniversary dinner just to watch a championship. Only when he came home from his parents and I told him what I'd done, he just seemed unbothered. He had thanks and everything, and then he asked if I wanted to go get dinner. He didn't even watch it, and that's just so out of character for him. Then, one night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to see Rick's face inches from mine, just looking at me with these blank eyes. He kind of gave this nervous laugh and asked, "Baby, what are you doing?" And he didn't answer. For like a solid 30 seconds, he just stared, almost like he was looking right through me. when he suddenly smiled and said, "Sorry, honey. Sometimes I just can't believe this is real." Then he just rolled over and went to sleep. I didn't get much sleep after that myself. And yesterday, about a week after he came home, the neighborhood threw a street party to celebrate his return. Everyone from our street and the streets on either side turned up to see him and tell him how happy they were that he's all right. When he wasn't standing with his arm around my waist, he was mildly around, chatting amicably to each and every one of our neighbors, even the little kids. Jackson, our next-door neighbor Sally's toddler, wanted to play peekaboo, and Rick happily played along with a smile on his face. Now, my husband never did that. Rick always said he didn't like kids. That's why we never had any. And so he never wanted to play with any of the neighborhood children, especially not Jackson. Rick all but avoided him. Before he disappeared, I had started to suspect that it was so I wouldn't see them together and notice the subtle but unmistakable similarities. The final nail in the coffin, proverbially speaking, was Sally. Just this morning, she came knocking on our door. Her excuse was the tray of brownies she carried, but I think she just wanted to push her way into our morning so that she could see for herself what the situation was. After she left, I called her a nosy busybody. Rick laughed, kissed my head, and agreed with me. That was when I knew for sure that it couldn't really be him. Rick always used to get so mad whenever I'd insult Sally, like I didn't have any right to hate her, even though she'd been fucking my husband for years. But today, there was none. None of that. He didn't even try to defend her. I know what you must be thinking. If he was in an accident or something, he might have had some kind of traumatic brain injury that caused him to forget some things about his life, maybe even change his personality. And that's a valid, reasonable explanation. I have no doubt it's what the police would tell me if I reported all of this. But you know why I'm dead certain this man isn't my husband? He doesn't have a scar. If he was really Rick, he'd have a scar on the side of his forehead, shaped like a golf club that I hit him with. But there's nothing. Not a mark. Honestly, I'm close to going out tonight and digging up my petunias just to make sure he's still under there. I don't know what I'm sharing a bed with, but I know it's not my husband. So what the hell am I gonna do? I have had so many paranormal encounters during my life that I have come to feel as though I might be a conduit of something along those lines. There is one that has come to mind a lot lately, and I thought I would share it with you all. Around 15 years ago, I was living in a small apartment, technically one half of a duplex. It was just under 1,000 square feet. The living room and kitchen made up the first floor. The way I had my living room set up, when I was sitting on my couch watching TV, I could always see the door in the kitchen that led to the back porch. Quite a few odd things transpired while I was there, but this one always creeped me out the most. My then girlfriend and I were watching a movie. It was around 9 at night, and the sun had long since set. The outside lights over the back door were always on, so the window was illuminated. I kept the blinds drawn for privacy, though. The window and the TV were the only sources of light in my place. Around halfway through the movie, I got a distinct feeling that we were being watched. I happened to glance out the back door and saw what could only be a silhouette of a head there. It was low enough in the window that where the chin would be met the frame. I looked at my girlfriend and asked her to look at the window. Her breath caught in her throat, so I knew I wasn't the only one seeing it. Thinking that there was someone on the other side of the door, I got up and walked over as briskly as possible, the head never moving from the window. It only took about 10 seconds to cross the span when walking normally, so I imagine this took around 5 seconds. I ripped the door open, only to find the porch empty. I knew that no one had fled upon hearing my approach because, as I stated before, the head silhouette never moved, and the porch made a lot of noise when you walked across it, and I had heard nothing. I knew then that we had been watched by something paranormal. My skin crawled. I locked the door and returned to the couch to my equally freaked out girlfriend. 10 minutes later, the silhouette returned. We shut off the TV and went upstairs to bed. I still get chills thinking about it today. Whatever it had been was within 15 feet of us, just watching us. I was 16, and me and my friends, I'll call Evan and Jake, went to rent a hotel for the night since it was spring break. We got to the hotel and checked in. It had a really funky smell, but we still stayed there. Once we got to our room, it was about 3 p.m., so we decided to go swimming. The pool was downstairs, departed from the hotel. Once we got to the entrance, there was a man at least 6'3" in all black with a hood covering his face, facing us. I panicked a little, but not out loud. We got into the pool and swam for a few hours until we saw the man again, in all black, sitting on a chair by the pool. I cleared my throat. Can I help you, sir? I asked. No response. I still was a little paranoid. I put my face in the water, and at the bottom of the pool was another figure that was all black. I screamed like a little girl and ran for the door. I looked back and saw nothing. Not the guy in the chair or the guy under the pool. My friends thought I was just seeing things, but I saw what I saw, as clear as the water. I didn't feel like swimming anymore, so I decided to get dinner at a nearby restaurant. I got a table for me and my friends to sit at, and there I saw once again the man in all black on the other side of the dining room, and he was staring at me. I've had enough. I went over there and I lost track of him as he took off. After we ate, I decided this trip has gone too far, and we should leave tomorrow morning, but my friends didn't like that idea. Once it was 10:30, I and my friends dozed off in the hotel room. I woke up to some noises. I saw a shadow of a figure at the end of my bed. I calmed myself down and told myself that it was just my hat that I put there before I went to bed. I went to bed and got woken up again 30 minutes later to more noises. I was getting thirsty, so I reached under the bed and tried to grab my water bottle, but I grabbed something, and I was totally shocked at what I grabbed. It was my hat. I had never been more scared in my life. I couldn't help but scream at the top of my lungs when I heard a voice next to my ear say, "You're a bitch." I jumped out of bed and realized it was 2 men in black, right there. I tried to fight them, but it was no use. Once they grabbed me and dragged me out of the room. I tried to scream, but the guy was covering my mouth. I passed out and woke up on a stretcher. It turned out those guys knifed me while I passed out, and someone caught them. But the doctor had said no one could catch the guys who got me. To this day, I always have a nightlight at night. so I'm not so scared.